Hello everyone, welcome back to DevOps HQ. So in our last video, we have seen that how we can set up a HAProxy load balancer on the top of GCP. And in this video, we are going to see that how we can deploy the same setup on the top of AWS. So again, let's go through our architecture diagram. So this will be our architecture diagram in which again we have a same load balancer, the same HAProxy load balancer, and we will have the three servers for backend, and when any request again reach to this HAProxy load balancer, depending upon the load or the number of requests, it will transfer the request to these backend servers. So now let's move to the practical. So let's go to EC2 instances and click on launch instance. Let's name it as web servers. So in our last tutorial, we have used Ubuntu as our base image, which is a Debian based Linux. But for this practical, we will go with Amazon Linux, which comes from a different distribution, that is from CentOS, such that we have knowledge of multiple Linux distribution and we will have understanding of different packages as well. So let's go with Amazon Linux, and then for key pair, just select a key pair if you have already have. In case if you don't, then create a new one, and here make the number of instances to 3, and we have to allow the HTTP and HTTPS traffic, and then click on launch instance. So our instances got launched. It will take around 30 seconds to 1 minute to come into the running state. So it came into the running state. So just click on this and click on connect here, and again connect. Then go to our second server, click on connect, and then our so we are connected with our instances, and now we have to install the web server. So for that, here the package manager is yum. Earlier we have the apt as a package manager. So here we have to type sudo yum install httpd space -y. It's install. And we have to do the same thing in all of our instances. Sudo yum install httpd y, copy this, paste it here. So our web server has installed, and now we have to replace its default file. So for that, just type vim/var dev/html index.html, and we have to again paste our custom website here. So just copy it, paste this, and as it's our first web server, so let's the number as 1 only, and then press escape and then :wq and then hit enter. Okay, so I'm not root in this case, so that's why it's not allowing me to edit this file. So for that case, just simply press :q and exclamation and hit enter, and we have to run this command as sudo. So let's add sudo in front of our command and hit enter. Then again paste this file and do escape :wq. And we have to do the same thing in our other instances as well. So for that, type sudo vim/var/dev/html and index.html here. Paste this file and make the number 1 to 2. Then save this file. Now go to another tab, and here also we have to do the same thing. Sudo vim/var/dev/html index.html, and here we have to change the number to 3. Escape and then WQ. So we have configured our web server, and now let's restart our servers. So for that, type systemctl restart httpd and hit enter. That's systemctl so we have to use the command sudo. Let's copy this. We have restarted our servers, and let's see that if we are able to connect with our server or not. So for that, copy its IP address, hit enter. So yes, our web server is coming. Our web server 1 is also coming. Let's move for the last one. Okay, so we are connected with all of our 3 web servers and it is working fine. So now let's configure our HAProxy. So we have configured the server A, server B and server C, and now we have to configure our load balancer such that when the request comes from the end user, it will distribute the load to these servers. So for that, again launch one more instance and name it as HAProxy Load Balancer. We will use the Amazon Linux. Select a key pair. So I will again use the dev. Allow the traffic for HTTP and HTTPS. Launch instance. Instance is launched. We have to wait until it comes into the running state. So it came into the running state. So let's connect with it. Click on connect, then connect one more time. So first of all, let's install the HAProxy service here. So for that, type sudo yum install HAProxy -y. We have successfully installed our HAProxy, and now we have to make changes into the configuration of this HAProxy such that when request comes to this HAProxy server, it will reroute those requests to the backend servers. So let's go to the HAProxy directory, which is /etc/HAProxy, and here we have to edit this HAProxy configuration file. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that instead of that, it's always a good practice to keep a backup of our configuration file before making any changes into it, such that if we encounter any problem or any issue in future, then we can roll back easily. So for that, let's create a backup for this. So I will create a backup. So move HAProxy to HAProxy backup. Okay, so we have to use the sudo command here. So we have created our backup, and now let's create the same file again, that is haproxy.config, and here we have to define the rules. So first of all, we have to define the defaults, and in defaults here we have to define the mode. So we are going to use the HTTP mode, and then we have to define the timeouts such that if any request will not get handled or will not get served from the HAProxy, then after a period of time it will discard those requests. Otherwise our load balancer will got overloaded. So that's why it's necessary to define the timeouts. So for that, timeout client 10 seconds, then timeout connect 5 seconds, timeout server 10 seconds, timeout HTTP request 10 seconds. So we have defined the timeouts for client, the server, and for HTTP request, and now we have to define the front end. So for that, we have to type front end, and then we have to give a name. So in this case I am giving HQ_front end. So if we go to our architecture diagram, so here we can see that we do not have any front end setup here. And this load balancer, like the HAProxy load balancer, is serving as a front end because all the requests are coming to this load balancer, and then this load balancer reroutes the traffic to the backend server. So in our case, the HAProxy itself acts as a front end, and due to which we have to bind the HAProxy load balancer IP as a front end. So we have to bind this. So for that, type bind and *:80, such that if any request come to the port number 80 of this instance, then it will reroute those traffics. And the mode should be HTTP, and then we have to define the backends. So for defining the backend, we have to type default backend, and then we have to give the name of our backend service, which is DevOps HQ. And then we have to define our backends. So for that, type backend, and then we have to give the backend name, which we have already given, that is DevOps_HQ. And here we have to define the servers. And before that, we have to define the technique, which is balance. So in our last tutorial, we have used the round robin technique. So for this case, we will go with least connection. So for that, type least con, and then we have to define our server. So server 1, and then copy the IPs of our server, paste it here, :80, then again server 1, 2, paste the IP of our second server, then hit enter, and then again one more time for server 3, again go to this page, copy the IP, paste it here, and :80. So we have defined these configurations which we need for this practical. So now save it. So for that, press escape, :WQ. Okay, so again I don't have the access to make the changes, so copy this, exit it here, and open this file as sudo, paste it, and save it. Now let's see that. So it's successfully saved, and now let's restart our server. So for that, type sudo systemctl restart HAProxy, and let's see the status of this service. Status. So it's running. Now let's copy the IP of our HAProxy load balancer and open it. So here the web page is coming from server 2. Now let's refresh this. It's coming from server 1 and server 3. So congratulations, we have configured the HAProxy load balancer on the top of AWS as well. So I hope you liked this video, and thanks for watching.